I'm Maya, a 30-year-old woman with a thriving career as an independent artist. I've been working in this field for nearly a decade, and through a mix of talent, persistence, and a little luck, I've managed to turn my passion into a six-figure income. It's not just a job, it's a huge part of my identity. I come from a family of creatives, and I've always taken pride in building something that not only supports me financially but also fulfills me in ways I can't describe. My fiancé Aaron is 33 and works in corporate finance. We've been together for 5 years and got engaged about 8 months ago. At first, he was one of my biggest supporters. He used to gush about how talented and driven I was, even joking that one day I'd be more famous than the artists whose work we'd see in galleries. Those early days felt like a dream. Aaron seemed to understand and appreciate me in a way I hadn't experienced before. But somewhere along the way, things started to shift. We began planning our wedding a couple of months ago. I've always had my heart set on a specific venue, a beautiful old estate that doubles as an art gallery. It's expensive, but I've been saving for it for years. Since I insisted on the venue, I told Aaron I'd cover the bulk of the wedding costs. It didn't seem like a big deal at the time. My career allows me the flexibility to handle it, and I thought we were on the same page about making our big day special. The first time I noticed something was off was during a dinner with Aaron's coworkers. When they asked what I did, he introduced me as self-employed. That stung a little, but I brushed it off. Maybe he just thought artists didn't explain enough. But then it started happening more often. At parties, events, even casual meetups with friends, he'd downplay what I do. Sometimes he'd laugh and call it her little creative venture. Once, when someone asked if I sold my work, he casually added, "It's more of a hobby, really, but she's great at it." At first, I tried to let it slide. I told myself he didn't mean it the way it came across. But the comments kept piling up. At a family dinner a few weeks ago, Aaron made a joke about my art hobby in front of his parents and siblings. They laughed along, but I felt humiliated. His mom even chimed in with, "It's so cute that you get to do what you love." That dinner was the first time I really started questioning how Aaron viewed me and my work. Later that night, I brought it up. I told him it bothered me that he kept calling my career a hobby, especially in front of other people. His response? "You're being too sensitive. It's not like I meant anything by it." That phrase, too sensitive, has started to feel like a refrain lately. Whenever I express any frustration or hurt, it's brushed off as me overreacting. Then came the breaking point. We were going over the wedding budget, and Aaron suggested I should cut back on my hobby expenses to help save for our honeymoon. That was the moment everything clicked for me. This wasn't just about an offhand comment or a poorly worded joke. Aaron didn't respect my career, or maybe he didn't see it as a career at all. I told him I needed to pause the wedding planning. His reaction was, not great. He accused me of overreacting and said I was making a big deal out of nothing. He kept repeating that he didn't mean to disrespect me and that I was reading too much into things. But I couldn't shake the feeling that if we went through with the wedding, this issue would only get worse. If he doesn't take my career seriously now, what would happen after we got married? I confided in my best friend about everything. She's known me since college and has seen firsthand how much work I've put into building my career. Her reaction was immediate. If he can't respect what you do, that's a huge red flag. You need to think long and hard about whether this is someone you want to spend your life with. Hearing her say that made me feel validated but also scared. I don't want to throw away 5 years with someone I love over this. But at the same time, I can't ignore how much it's been bothering me. To get some outside perspective, I turned to Reddit. I posted about the situation in a relationship advice subreddit, laying out everything that's happened. I ended the post with a question. Am I being unreasonable for putting my career above wedding plans? The responses are still coming in, but so far, it seems like a lot of people think I'm right to stand my ground. I haven't made any decisions yet, but I know I have some serious thinking to do. This isn't just about wedding plans or money. It's about whether I can be with someone who doesn't see my career, and by extension, a big part of who I am, as valid. I'll update you all soon once I figure out what to do next. Update 1. But after I told Aaron I wanted to pause the wedding planning, the fallout was immediate. He didn't take it well. At first, he just stared at me, like I had spoken another language. Then he said I was humiliating him and asked what he was supposed to tell his family. According to him, they'd already started asking about details, like when the invitations would go out and who was on the guest list. I told him I wasn't canceling the wedding, just hitting pause because we had things to work out. That didn't seem to matter to him. His focus was entirely on how this made him look, not on why I felt the need to pump the brakes in the first place. He threw out phrases like blowing this out of proportion and making a mountain out of a molehill, which only made me more sure I'd done the right thing. The next couple of days were tense. Aaron didn't apologize for dismissing my career or for calling it a hobby. Instead, he doubled down. At one point, he said he'd only called it that because he thought it was cute, as if that explanation was supposed to make everything better. He kept circling back to how I was ruining what was supposed to be the happiest time of our lives. He even suggested I was letting strangers on Reddit influence me more than him, which was ironic since he didn't seem to care how his own words were influencing me. Meanwhile, my Reddit post had gone viral. The responses were overwhelming, with hundreds of people chiming in to say I wasn't overreacting. Many shared their own experiences of being in relationships where their partners didn't respect their passions or careers, and how those relationships ultimately didn't last. Some of the comments were harsh, but they were also eye-opening. It was like holding up a mirror to my situation and seeing it from the outside. With all of this swirling around, I decided to set some boundaries. I told Aaron that if we were going to move forward, we needed to see a couples therapist. He was reluctant at first, saying we didn't need someone else meddling in our relationship. But when I told him I wasn't budging on the wedding pause until we got professional help, he finally agreed. Our first session was revealing. The therapist asked us both to explain why we were there. I laid out my concerns about Aaron's dismissive attitude toward my career and how it made me feel unsupported. When it was Aaron's turn, he said something that stopped me cold. He just wanted a traditional wife. He claimed he thought we were on the same page about this from the start. I honestly didn't know where he got that idea since I've always been clear about how much my career means to me. The therapist pointed out that it sounded like Aaron's expectations for marriage were clashing with my independence. She asked us to reflect on whether our values were aligned, and the truth hit me like a freight train. Maybe they weren't. My parents got wind of what was happening, and when I explained the situation to them, they were both shocked and concerned. They've always been proud of my career and have supported me every step of the way. My mom reminded me that respect and support are non-negotiable in a partnership. And my dad, who's usually quiet about relationship stuff, said, "Don't settle for someone who doesn't see your worth." Aaron's family, on the other hand, had a very different take. His mom pulled me aside during a family dinner and said she'd always thought Aaron would marry someone more practical. She didn't outright say she thought I was a bad match for him, but the implication was clear. That conversation left me wondering how much of Aaron's attitude came from his own beliefs versus what he'd been hearing from his family all these years. Things escalated when Aaron gave me an ultimatum. He said that if I loved him, I'd compromise, that I didn't need to work so hard after we got married. It felt like he was asking me to choose between him and my career. I told him, as calmly as I could, that my career wasn't something I could just set aside. It's not just a job to me, it's a part of who I am. Around the same time, I landed a huge deal with a luxury brand that wanted to feature my work in their stores. It was a career milestone I'd been dreaming about for years. When I told Aaron, his reaction wasn't what I expected. Instead of being happy for me, he said, "So I guess the wedding budget's covered now?" It was like he couldn't even pretend to celebrate my success. That was the moment I realized just how much his attitude was affecting me. His lack of support wasn't just frustrating, it was starting to eat away at my self-worth. I began questioning whether I could spend the rest of my life with someone who saw my achievements as nothing more than a convenient way to fund our life together. I'm still trying to figure out what to do next, but one thing is clear, something has to change. I'll update again soon. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time and focusing on what makes me happy, my work, my friends, and the support of people who truly understand me. Update 2. Things have gone from bad to worse since my last update. After the couples therapy session, I thought Aaron and I might be able to make some progress. But the reality is, the more I dig into our issues, the more red flags I uncover. It feels like every day brings something new to light, and none of it is good. It started with an offhand comment from one of Aaron's friends at a party. I hadn't seen this guy in a while, and we were catching up when he casually mentioned how stubborn I am. I was caught off guard because I didn't remember giving him any reason to think that. When I asked what he meant, he laughed and said Aaron told him about how I refuse to compromise on my work and how obsessed I am with proving myself. His tone made it clear this wasn't meant as a compliment. The rest of the evening was tense. Aaron noticed I was upset and tried to brush it off as his friend misinterpreting what he said. But I couldn't ignore the fact that Aaron was talking about me behind my back in a way that made me look bad. It wasn't just one comment either. I started piecing together things I'd heard from mutual friends over the past few months. It became clear that Aaron had been venting about me, framing my dedication to my career as selfishness or stubbornness. We went back to therapy, but the session didn't go much better than the first one. The therapist asked Aaron to reflect on why he felt the need to talk about me to his friends instead of addressing his concerns directly. He admitted he hadn't respected my career as much as he should, but quickly added that he didn't think his practical mindset was a bad thing. The way he said it, you'd think he was doing me a favor by staying with someone who didn't fit his traditional mold. Around this time, we had another discussion about finances. Aaron revealed that he expected me to handle most of the household expenses after marriage because he'd be focusing on big picture sacrifices, like managing investments and planning for our future. He said it so matter-of-factly, like it was the most logical thing in the world. When I pointed out that I already handle a lot of the expenses now, including most of the wedding costs, he brushed it off as temporary. Then came the conversation about my work studio. Aaron brought up the idea of converting it into a nursery when we have kids. He didn't ask me how I felt about it. He just threw it out there as if it were a given. When I reminded him that my studio is where I create my work, he looked genuinely confused, like he couldn't understand why that would be a problem. It was another clear sign that he didn't see my career as something permanent or important. Looking back on our relationship, I started to realize that Aaron had been dropping hints about his expectations for years. He'd make comments about how nice it would be if I didn't have to work so much or joke about how great it would be to have me home full-time. At the time, I thought he was just being playful, but now I see those comments for what they were, little glimpses into his true mindset. I decided to get some outside perspective from a mentor I deeply respect. She's been in the art world for decades and has seen her fair share of challenges, both personal and professional. When I told her about everything that had been happening, she didn't mince words. She said compromising on my career for someone who doesn't respect it would be a mistake I'd regret for the rest of my life. Her advice gave me the clarity I needed to start reevaluating what I want in a partner. Aaron's parents invited me over for dinner around this time, and it was clear they were trying to smooth things over. But their version of help involved subtly pressuring me to be more flexible. His mom mentioned how much Aaron has been looking forward to starting a family and hinted that I should consider taking a step back from work once we have kids. It felt like they were trying to steer me into a role I never agreed to take on. In an attempt to process everything, I started journaling. Writing down my feelings helped me realize just how much I've been compromising in this relationship. I've been bending over backward to accommodate Aaron's needs and expectations, but he hasn't made the same effort for me. When I shared another post on Reddit detailing everything that had happened since the wedding pause, the response was overwhelmingly supportive. People encouraged me to prioritize my career and my happiness, and some even shared stories of how staying in similar situations had negatively impacted their lives. Their words gave me the push I needed to take a step back and focus on myself. The timing couldn't have been better because my brand deal with the luxury company was gaining international attention. I was receiving more recognition than ever, but instead of celebrating with me, Aaron grew more distant. It was like the more successful I became, the more resentful he got. He stopped asking about my work altogether, and his interactions with me felt cold and detached. I started looking into what it would take to break off the engagement. It's not a decision I'm taking lightly, but the more I uncover, the harder it is to see a future with someone who doesn't respect or support me. I'll update again soon. For now, I'm focusing on the opportunities ahead and figuring out the best path forward. Update 3. The breaking point came during yet another argument about the wedding pause. Aaron was pacing around our apartment, frustrated and accusing me of being unreasonable. He finally said, "If you were serious about us, you'd put family first, not your career." His tone wasn't angry, just cold and matter-of-fact. Like this was some universal truth I was failing to grasp. Hearing those words out loud clarified everything. I realized there was no amount of therapy, compromise, or conversation that would make Aaron see my career as anything more than an obstacle. I told him, as calmly as I could, that if he couldn't see my work as legitimate, then we were done. Aaron's reaction was explosive. He accused me of being selfish, of not valuing the relationship, and of prioritizing strangers on the internet over him. He stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind him, leaving me standing there in silence. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I started packing. I needed space to think, and didn't want to stay in the apartment surrounded by memories of our relationship. My parents offered to let me stay with them while I figured things out, so I packed a few bags, left a note for Aaron, and walked out. The fallout from our breakup was immediate and messy. Aaron's family wasted no time taking his side. His mom called to check on me, but the conversation quickly turned into a lecture about how relationships require sacrifices and how I should have been more flexible. It was clear they thought I was at fault for the engagement ending. My family, on the other hand, fully supported my decision. My mom told me she was proud of me for standing up for myself, and my dad gave me a rare hug and said, "You deserve someone who sees you for who you are, not who they want you to be." Their support made me feel stronger, even as Aaron's family and some mutual friends tried to paint me as the villain. I posted an update on Reddit, explaining what had happened since the wedding pause and how the engagement had officially ended. The response was overwhelming. My post went viral, and thousands of people shared their thoughts, encouragement, and similar experiences. Many praised me for having the courage to walk away from a relationship that didn't align with my values. Reading their comments felt like a virtual hug from strangers who truly understood what I was going through. A few days later, Aaron sent me a long message. He wrote about how he had been just scared and felt overwhelmed by the changes marriage would bring. He apologized for some of the things he'd said, but didn't take responsibility for how his actions and words had affected me. He also didn't mention my career at all, which made it clear that he still didn't get it. I continued going to therapy on my own, and it was eye-opening. For the first time, I started unpacking not just the recent events but also years of subtle disrespect I'd overlooked or ignored. Therapy helped me see how much of myself I had compromised in the relationship, often without realizing it. Moving into a new studio apartment felt like a fresh start. It was smaller than the place Aaron and I had shared, but it was mine, and that made all the difference. I hung my art on the walls, filled the shelves with things that made me happy, and slowly began to rebuild my life without him. My career took off in ways I couldn't have predicted. The brand deal I'd landed gained international attention, and I started receiving inquiries from other high-profile companies and galleries. My story even caught the attention of a few media outlets, and I was invited to speak about my journey as an artist. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of my life again. Aaron, meanwhile, tried to rekindle things. He sent flowers to my apartment, left messages on my voicemail, and even showed up unannounced once, claiming he wanted to talk things out. But every attempt came with the same caveat. He insisted I meet him halfway. I refused. Meeting him halfway would mean giving up parts of myself that I wasn't willing to lose. The breakup also caused some drama among our mutual friends. A few of them sided with Aaron, claiming I was too focused on my career and unwilling to compromise. It hurt, but it also made me realize who my true friends were, the ones who supported me without judgment. With the engagement behind me, I started exploring new hobbies and meeting people who shared my values. I joined a local artist collective, started taking weekend hikes with a new group of friends, and even tried pottery for the first time. It was refreshing to be around people who celebrated creativity and ambition instead of treating it like a flaw. I shared another update on Reddit, thanking everyone who had supported me through this journey. I explained how I was rebuilding my life and focusing on what made me happy. The response was just as heartwarming as before, with people cheering me on and sharing how my story had inspired them to reevaluate their own relationships. Now, I'm considering a big life change, maybe moving to a city with a more vibrant art scene or even going international. For the first time in years, the possibilities feel endless. I'll update again soon, but for now I'm excited to see where this new chapter takes me. Update 4. A lot has happened since my last update. Breaking off the engagement with Aaron was the hardest decision I've ever made, but it's also been the most freeing. After weeks of reflecting on what I wanted for my future, I decided to leave behind the city we had shared and make a fresh start somewhere new. I moved to a city known for its vibrant art scene, a place where creativity thrives and opportunities are endless. The move wasn't just about getting away from Aaron, it was about stepping into a space where I could fully embrace who I am. My new apartment is small but cozy, with a corner that I've turned into a dedicated studio. The walls are already filled with my paintings, and every morning, sunlight streams through the windows, reminding me why I made this change. Professionally, things have been taking off in ways I never imagined. Shortly after settling in, I got an email from a gallery owner who had seen my work featured in a recent campaign. They wanted to showcase my art in a major exhibition. The opening night was surreal. Seeing my pieces on display, surrounded by people who genuinely appreciated them, felt like a dream. The gallery show was a success, and I sold several pieces to collectors. For the first time in my career, I felt like I'd truly arrived. But of course, not everything has been smooth sailing. Shortly after the exhibition, Aaron started posting about me on social media. He didn't mention my name, but it was obvious to anyone who knew us. His post painted me as selfish, career-obsessed, and unwilling to compromise. At first, I was furious. I wanted to respond, to defend myself and set the record straight. But then I realized I didn't owe anyone an explanation, especially not Aaron. So I stayed quiet and took the high road. When Aaron's posts started making the rounds among mutual friends, a few reached out to me, asking if I'd seen them. I simply told them I wasn't engaging and left it at that. Surprisingly, many of them supported me, saying they admired how I was handling the situation. Some even apologized for siding with Aaron after the breakup. It felt good to know that people were starting to see the truth for themselves. Meanwhile, the support I've received on Reddit has been overwhelming. My updates have continued to resonate with so many people, and I've received countless messages from women sharing their own stories of walking away from relationships that didn't align with their values. Seeing how my journey has inspired others has been one of the most rewarding parts of this experience. New opportunities have also come my way. I was invited to host a series of workshops for aspiring artists, which has been both challenging and fulfilling. Teaching others has reminded me why I fell in love with art in the first place. It's not just about creating, it's about connecting with people and sharing something meaningful. On the personal front, I've started dating casually again. It's nothing serious, just coffee dates and friendly conversations. For the first time in years, I'm prioritizing myself over a relationship. It's been refreshing to meet people who share my values and who genuinely respect my independence. Out of the blue, I received a call from Aaron's mom. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. To my surprise, she apologized for the way she had treated me during my engagement to Aaron. She admitted that she had always hoped he'd marry someone practical, but now realized how unfair that expectation was. She wished me well and even congratulated me on my recent successes. The conversation felt like closure, not just with her, but with that chapter of my life. Inspired by that call, I decided to write a letter to Aaron, not to send, but to reflect on how far I've come. In the letter, I thanked him for the good times we shared, but also acknowledged how his dismissiveness pushed me to stand up for myself. Writing it felt cathartic, and when I finished, I tore it up. I didn't need him to see it. It was enough that I had written it for myself. A few weeks later, I was named one of the top artists to watch by a major art magazine. The feature highlighted my journey and how I've built my career from the ground up. Seeing my name in print was surreal, and I couldn't help but smile, knowing how far I'd come since the days of Aaron calling my work a hobby. Aaron made one last attempt to reach out. He sent flowers and a card to my new address. How he found it, I don't know. The card was vague, congratulating me on my success, but still hinting that we should catch up. There was no acknowledgement of his past behavior, no real apology. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked him on all platforms. It felt like the final step in moving on. To celebrate this new chapter, my friends and family threw me a freedom party. It was small and intimate, filled with laughter, good food, and a lot of wine. They toasted to my courage, my success, and the exciting future ahead. It was the perfect way to close the door on the past and step fully into the present. I shared one last update on Reddit, thanking the community for being the catalyst for my journey of self-respect and growth. The response was heartwarming, with people cheering me on and asking for more updates. While I hinted at an exciting new project I'm working on, I also let them know that this might be my last post. It's time to focus fully on living my life, and the best part is, I'm finally living it on my terms. Update 5. The last few months have been a whirlwind of growth, opportunities, and milestones I never imagined hitting so quickly. Ending my engagement with Aaron was the turning point that led me to this new chapter, and looking back now, I can confidently say it was the best decision I ever made. The biggest career milestone so far? My first solo exhibition at an international gallery. A curator reached out after seeing my work in the earlier group show, and they wanted to feature an entire collection of my pieces. The gallery was in Paris, and just hearing that my art would be displayed in one of the world's art capitals felt unreal. The preparation was intense. I poured my heart into every piece, working late into the night and refining the collection until it felt perfect. When I finally flew to Paris for the opening, I was overwhelmed by the turnout. The gallery was packed, with visitors from all over the world. Seeing people engage with my art, taking photos, discussing the pieces, and even buying them, was a moment I'll never forget. By the end of the night, half of the collection had sold, and I had offers from other galleries interested in working with me. That exhibition opened doors I didn't even know existed. Invitations to speak at conferences started rolling in, with organizers asking me to share my journey, both as an artist and as someone who walked away from a relationship that didn't align with my values. I was nervous at first, but the response to my talks has been incredible. People have told me that my story inspired them to make changes in their own lives, whether it's pursuing their dreams or leaving behind toxic relationships. Knowing my experiences have helped others is one of the most rewarding parts of this entire journey. On the personal side, something unexpected happened. I met someone new. It started casually. A mutual friend introduced us at an art event, but things quickly clicked. He's in the creative industry too, so he understands the highs and lows of this kind of work. What's different about him is how much he celebrates my career. He asks questions about my projects, attends my shows, and genuinely seems proud of everything I've achieved. It's early days, but for the first time, I feel like I'm with someone who sees me as an equal. Aaron, of course, hasn't completely faded from the picture. After my solo exhibition was featured in several news outlets, he sent me an email. It was long and reflective, congratulating me on my success and apologizing for how things ended between us. He admitted he had been wrong to dismiss my career and said he regretted not supporting me more. But the message also included a subtle hint about reconnecting, which made it clear he hadn't fully changed. I didn't respond. There's no anger left, just a sense that we've both moved on in different directions. Globally, my work is gaining recognition in ways I never anticipated. I've started mentoring young artists, helping them navigate the challenges of building a career in the creative world. Many of them are women who, like me, have faced resistance or dismissiveness in their journeys. Inspired by their stories, I've launched a program to support women in creative fields. The initiative offers grants, workshops, and networking opportunities, aiming to give others the kind of support I wish I'd had when I was starting out. A few weeks ago, I attended a major art event in New York. It was there that I ran into Aaron for the first time since our breakup. It wasn't awkward or dramatic, just a brief, civil exchange. He congratulated me on my success, and I could tell he meant it. He also offered a more direct apology than he had in his email, acknowledging that he hadn't treated me with the respect I deserved. I thanked him and wished him well, but the conversation ended there. It felt like the closure I didn't know I needed. To celebrate this new chapter of my life, I threw a party with my closest friends and family. We called it a launch party for the next phase of my career, but it was really a celebration of everything that's happened since I decided to put myself first. There was laughter, music, and even a toast to the moment I paused my wedding plans, a decision that changed everything. Reflecting on the past year, I'm struck by how much has changed. Pausing the wedding felt terrifying at the time, but it was the first step toward reclaiming my life. My career has flourished, my relationships are stronger than ever, and I've grown in ways I didn't think were possible. I shared one final post on Reddit, thanking everyone who followed my journey and supported me through the toughest moments. Their advice and encouragement were instrumental in helping me find the clarity and courage to make the hard decisions. In the post, I hinted at some exciting projects on the horizon, but I also let them know that this would be my last update. It's time to live my life offline. The comments on that final post were bittersweet, with many people expressing gratitude for the updates and wishing me well. Some begged for more, but I ended the post with a simple message: this is just the beginning of my story, but it's time for me to live it in the real world. Thank you for being part of this chapter. And with that, I'm moving forward, excited for what's next and grateful for how far I've come.